The paddock whispers are growing louder, and this time they center on a potential seismic shift that could redefine MotoGP's next era. Pedro Acosta, the sport's brightest young force, is suddenly at the heart of a story that blends ambition, legacy, and a tantalizing possibility, sharing a garage with none other than Márquez. It's the kind of rumor that doesn't just stir curiosity, it ignites the imagination of the entire championship. Straight to the facts, speculation around Acosta's long-term future has intensified, with strong indications that Ducati are positioning themselves to secure the Spaniard for the 2027 season. The timing is no coincidence. MotoGP's upcoming 850 cubic centimeters regulation shift is forcing manufacturers to think ahead, and Ducati appear keen to build their next dynasty around youth and raw speed. In this scenario, Acosta is not just a signing, he's a cornerstone. Crucially, the move could come at the expense of Francesco Bagnaia, signaling a bold and potentially controversial reset within Ducati's factory structure. Yet amid all the speculation, it is Acosta's own words that have truly set the paddock alight. When the idea of partnering Marquez was put to him, sparked by comments from Kevin Schwantz, his response was disarmingly honest. Racing alongside a 9-time world champion would be nothing short of a dream. That sentiment matters. In a sport often defined by guarded answers and political caution, Acosta's openness reveals both confidence and hunger. He knows exactly what it would mean, not just to compete against Marquez, but to learn from him, to measure himself daily against one of the greatest riders in history. And in a paddock where egos often collide, that level of humility is striking. Behind the scenes, however, reality remains complex. Ducati have yet to formalize anything, with commercial negotiations surrounding the 2027 framework still unresolved. For now, Acosta remains firmly committed to KTM, and on current form they have every reason to hold on to him as tightly as possible. Because on track, Acosta is no longer just the future, he is already a present threat. In a 2026 season increasingly shaped by Aprilia's resurgence, he stands out as the only rider consistently capable of disrupting their rhythm. His growth has been rapid, but more importantly, it has been intelligent. KTM Motorsport boss Pit Beirer has pointed to a newfound maturity, less desperation, more calculation. That evolution is visible. After a frustrating rookie campaign battling the limitations of the RC16, Acosta has returned sharper, calmer, and more efficient. A maiden sprint victory and multiple Grand Prix podiums have lifted him to third in the standings, transforming him from a prodigy into a genuine title outsider. He is no longer chasing moments, he is building a championship. And then there's the wider implication. Former team boss Livio Suppo suggests that pairing Acosta with Marquez wouldn't just benefit the youngster, it could extend Marquez's own competitive lifespan. The presence of a fearless, ultra-fast teammate has a way of reigniting even the most decorated champions. It creates friction, and in MotoGP, friction often produces brilliance. The narrative practically writes itself: master versus apprentice. It's a storyline already capturing attention beyond the paddock, with Oscar Piastri among those intrigued by the potential clash. Acosta has often been labelled the next Marquez, but what happens when the next faces the original on equal machinery? For now it remains hypothetical, but the pieces are aligning. Acosta continues his 2026 campaign as one of the most consistent performers on the grid, alongside Jorge Martin, while sitting within striking distance of championship leader Marco Bezzecchi. His next major test comes at Jerez, a home race that could further cement his status as Spain's next great hope. Whether or not Ducati make their move, one thing is already clear: Pedro Acosta is no longer knocking on the door of MotoGP's elite. He's forcing it open. What makes this story even more compelling is the timing within MotoGP's competitive cycle. The championship is approaching a technical reset, and with it comes a rare opportunity for manufacturers to reshuffle their hierarchies. Ducati are known for acting decisively when building long-term dominance, and targeting Pedro Acosta fits perfectly into that philosophy. Young, fearless, and already proven under pressure. Inside the KTM camp, there is no denial of Acosta's rising influence. KTM have invested heavily in nurturing his talent, and losing him at the peak of his development would represent both a sporting and symbolic blow. The RC16 project has finally reached a level where it can consistently challenge at the front, and much of that progress is now being validated by Acosta's performances. There is also a psychological layer to this potential transfer. Sharing a garage with Márquez is not just a technical challenge, it is a mental one. Márquez has built a career on overwhelming teammates with intensity, precision, and relentless adaptability. For any rider stepping into that environment, survival alone is not enough. You must evolve rapidly or risk being overshadowed. Yet Acosta does not appear intimidated by that prospect. If anything, his comments suggest he thrives on the idea of confrontation at the highest level. This is a rider who has consistently risen through the ranks by embracing pressure rather than avoiding it. From Moto3 to Moto2 and now MotoGP, each step has been marked by rapid adaptation and an ability to extract maximum performance under scrutiny. The contrast in riding styles could also create one of the most fascinating technical duels on the grid. Márquez's aggressive, front-end driven approach has long defined his success, while Acosta is beginning to show a more balanced and calculated racecraft. If paired together, their data alone would become invaluable, not just for Ducati engineers, but for the evolution of the bike itself. Meanwhile, questions continue to swirl around Francesco Bagnaia and his long-term position. A rider of his caliber does not simply fade from contention, but Ducati's willingness to consider a generational shift signals how ruthless MotoGP can be at the top level. Performance, not legacy, ultimately dictates decisions in Bologna. Another dimension to consider is the broader competitive landscape. Aprilia's resurgence has disrupted what once looked like Ducati's uncontested dominance. Riders like Marco Bezzecchi are capitalizing on that momentum, forcing rivals to rethink their strategies. In that context, securing a rider like Acosta becomes less of a luxury and more of a necessity. Back on track, Acosta's consistency is beginning to separate him from the rest of the chasing pack. Alongside Jorge Martin, he remains one of the few riders capable of extracting points from every race scenario, whether conditions are stable or chaotic. That reliability is often what defines future champions, not just outright speed.